Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V20 6-tool power tool combo kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Nats Chat is brought to you by Walters. Walters is the place to be this weekend. The Nats this weekend welcome the Detroit Tigers, and DC United on Saturday night at 7:30 hosts the LA Galaxy.
Register at waltersdc.com/events and receive a free old-time lager for doing so.
Peterson checks on Thomas, who has his lead. McNeil trying to keep him close. The pitch. Swinging a line drive, hooked down the left field line. It is fair inside the line and down to the corner. Thomas will score. Garcia to third will stop there. And in at second with another RBI double is Joey Meneses. 1-2 on the way. Swinging a chopper left side toward the vacant hole. It's a base hit into left center field. Racing for the plate is Abrams. Thomas to third. The throw into second will send Garcia back to first. Nationals lead at 5-1.
He kicks the early right. He delivers a swing and a fly ball to right center field. Nimmo going back. Marte going back. Way back on the track. Can't get there. Off the wall in play. Rounding third is Garcia coming in to score without a play. And in at second with a double. And his fourth hit of the game. His third double. And his fourth run batted in of the day is Joey Meneses. And the Nationals are in double digits on the scoreboard. It's now Washington 10 and New York 2.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Tuesday, May 16th, 2023, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Our Nats now are 14-12 since their 4-11 start. You know, the Nats fell to 4-11 with a 6-4 loss to the Cleveland Guardians at Nationals Park on April 15th. This installment of the podcast is for May 16th. So the Nats, for exactly a month now, have been playing .538 baseball. Not bad for a rebuilding team. The Nats ripped the New York Mets 10-3 at Nationals Park on Monday to get a split of a 4-game series. Joey Meneses and Lane Thomas combined for 7 hits and a walk, including 5 doubles. C.J. Abrams hit a home run to the second deck in right field. Patrick Corbin, a quality start for the 5th time in 6 starts. The Nats, Mark, are not in a great place, but all things considered, the Nats are in a pretty good place right now.
You mentioned the record there, 14-12 since the bad start. You go further back, since the 1-6 start to the season, they are 17-17. So that's 500 ball over more than a month. That's 5 weeks at least. And let's remember who that 1-6 was against. That was the Braves and the Rays, who have proven to be 2 of the very best teams in baseball. So I think they're playing very competitive ball. They're not a great team by any stretch, but they are playing as, well as anybody could have reasonably expected them to, and doing it over a sustained stretch. And, they have a believer over on the other side in Brandon Nimmo, the Mets center fielder, who told reporters afterwards, "Don't let anybody fool you. The Washington Nationals are not a bad team. They can hit, they can throw. They've gotten a lot better since last year." High praise from Brandon Nimmo, saying the Nationals are not a bad team. And I think that's appropriate. They're not a great team, but they are not a bad team. They've played 500 ball for a long stretch right now. And, oh, by the way, they've played better than 500 ball against the Mets. They're now 4-3 against the supposedly far superior, money is no object, New York Mets.
Money can buy you many things. Winning baseball, not always. And, along those lines, Nats now 5-5 against National League East teams this season. We remember the horrendous mark the Nats had against the NL East last season, 17-59. Well, 5-5 so far this season. So, we see this with the Nats, right? They'll struggle for a few games offensively and then bust out. The Nats, over the first 3 games of this series, totaled a mere 7 runs. The Nats, in this game 4 of the series, scored 10 runs and put on quite an offensive display. 10 runs, 15 hits, which consisted of a home run, a triple, 5 doubles, and 8 singles. I mean, the Nats in this game had 7 extra base hits, worked 2 walks, went 5 for 12, with runners in scoring position, and you had a bunch of guys contributing, including Joey Meneses. We have been waiting and pleading and yearning for Joey Fourbags to start hitting for multiple bags in his hits, and He on Monday did not hit a home run, but he did have 4 different RBI hits, including 3 RBI doubles. It's not often that you see this. 4 different RBI hits in one game. He went 4 for 5 with 3 RBI doubles and an RBI infield single for good measure. But Meneses in the Nats 1-run first, a 1-out RBI double to left field to put the Nats up 1-0. Meneses in the Nats 2-run third, a 1-out RBI double to left for a 2-1 Nats lead. Meneses in the Nats 2-run sixth, a 2-out RBI infield single on a swinging bunt toward third base for an 8-2 Nats lead. And Meneses in the Nats 1-run eighth, a 2-out first pitch opposite field RBI double off the right center field warning track for a 10-2 Nats lead. Joey Meneses over the 4 games in this series, 7 for 17 with the 3 doubles, 4 singles, a walk, and 6 RBI. He still needs to hit for more power, as we know. But he on Monday hit for power, and Davey Martinez during his post-game press conference with you guys very much praised Meneses for the work that he's putting in, and at least on Monday, that work paid off.
Today, he squared some balls up, and, like you said, Mark, he was able to pull the ball a little bit better.
You're right, he's not hitting for a ton of power yet, at least home run power. The doubles are nice to see. But I liked in this game, he was pulling the ball in the air, something he has not done a lot of, and that's 2 doubles down the left field line, 1 on a changeup and 1 on a slider. That's another good sign if he's doing that off speed pitches and not just fastballs. But hey, over his last 27 games, he's hitting .345 right now. 6 doubles, 2 homers, 20 RBI. Again, not a whole lot of power, but he is hitting like a good big league hitter. And for the season, he's now batting .300 on the season. The OPS is still .722. That's nothing to be all that excited about, but he's trending certainly in the right direction. I think we said it a week ago in Arizona after the big game that he had. You kind of see the steps that he's taking, more solid contact, starting to pull the ball a little bit, and maybe that's ultimately going to lead to more home runs. I think we were nervous there for a while. Was Joey Meneses the ultimate flash in the pan, and we're never going to see that again from him? Maybe he's not going to be that guy, but right now he looks like not just a competent big league hitter, but a very good big league hitter, at least when it comes to singles and some doubles and driving in runs. And that's a great sign for a team that has desperately needed him to do that for them this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Nats are getting production from Meneses, just not quite the production you would want. But when you take a step back and assess who he is and where he was just a year ago, like, really, are we going to yell and scream about Joey Meneses not slugging .500? Like, come on. And you know what's really been good with him, and this was certainly the case in this series, first inning RBIs. Like, it felt like in every game, Joey Meneses had a first inning RBI hit, and he had another one in this game on Monday with that 1-out RBI double in that Nats 1-run first inning. So Meneses on Monday got on base 4 times. Lane Thomas on Monday got on base 4 times. 3 for 4 with 2 doubles, a single, and a walk. Thomas in that Nats 1-run first, a first pitch leadoff double to the left center field gap. His other double came in a 2-run 6, a 1-out double off the left field warning track. Lane Thomas has settled into being the Nats' regular number 1 batter. We know that, things have changed here and there with Davey Martinez's lineups this season. But right now, I mean, you've settled into this groove of Lane Thomas in the 1 spot, Luis Garcia in the 2 spot, and Meneses is either batting in the 3 or 4 spot. Lane Thomas for this season has an on-base percentage of .343. I mean, that's pretty good. That holds up over the course of a year. That's not nothing. And a good game for him on Monday.
Yeah, and he's now batting .285 with an OPS of .760, tops on the team. This keeps changing because so many of them have been right in that same range, high 600s, low 700s in OPS. It keeps changing. At the moment, Lane Thomas now leads the team in OPS at .760, Meneses at .722, CJ Abrams at .722, Luis Garcia at .702. It's creeping up there. It's by no means a great lineup. They're not there yet, but they are getting there. And the 1-2-3 of Thomas, Garcia, and Meneses has definitely been getting the job done to an extent that early in the year maybe was not the case. And it's nice to see them stringing things together. The most impressive thing to me in this game, they scored in 7 out of the 8 innings that they came up to bat. We've talked so much this year about, they have one big inning and then they go silent the rest of the way, or terrible start to the game and then come on strong at the end. This was sustained start to finish in a way that we have not seen a lot this year. That was really nice to see in my mind.
Yeah, no question. And, with Lane Thomas, I think it's a credit to him that he really has sort of established himself as an everyday player here for the Nats, because that was not the case necessarily these last few seasons. And with the news on Monday of the Nats activating Corey Dickerson, reinstating him from the 10-day injured list, he'd been on that since April 2nd with the left calf strain. You figure, all right, well, Victor Robles is still on the 10-day IL with the back spasm. So for now, Alex Call will remain probably your every game center fielder, and then left field will be kind of a rotation, right? Dickerson, Stone Garrett, maybe some Ildemaro Vargas. But, I think it's going to be interesting when Robles is healthy, how the outfield mix shakes out. But one thing that I think you do feel confident in saying is that Lane Thomas is going to be your every game right fielder. Like, that is his spot now, it sure seems like. We'll see what happens with Robles and Dickerson and Call and Stone Garrett and, who plays how much. But Thomas, I think, is putting a pretty strong grasp on that right field job. Now, we all know long-term, you have 3 stud outfield prospects. And, oh, by the way, we have some news on those guys coming up a little bit later on in the show. But for now, Lane Thomas is your starting right fielder.
Yeah, and I think he has earned the right to still be the everyday guy and to probably be the leadoff hitter for as long as this keeps going well for him. Now, we've seen from him in the past, he can be streaky. When he's good, he's really good. When he goes cold, it can last for a while. So he's got to prove that he can now do this consistently month to month. But I think he is in a class ahead of some of those other guys that you mentioned and has earned the right to be in the everyday lineup unless he just happens to need a day off. And as far as what else happens, I do think there is a fascinating question coming up. It's not there yet, but when Robles does return, what do they do? For now, it's going to be Corey Dickerson in left field against right-handers and Stone Garrett against left-handers with Alex Call as the starting center fielder. And I think that makes sense given the platoon splits. Garrett's been very good against lefties, not so good against righties. Dickerson in his career, much better against righties than lefties. We haven't really seen it here. We had to give him a chance and find out what exactly he can do for them. But when that day comes that Robles returns, are you going to send one of those two? Is Call or Garrett in trouble being sent down? Or will they find a way to keep both of them and send somebody else, like, say, a Michael Chavis, who really doesn't play at all, but has the versatility to play more positions, be an infielder as well? Eventually, that's a decision that's going to have to be made. And then who are you starting, Call or Garrett against the lefties? Again, I think Dickerson's going to get his shot. You paid $2.25 million for him. Obviously, he's been hurt almost the entire season. You got to give him a chance now to see what he can do with regular playing time. If he does what he's done most of his career against righties, that's better than the alternative. But then who's going to face the lefties? And I think there's an interesting question there to be had at some point.
Yeah, Alex Call has cooled off somewhat. Remember, he was the Nats' regular number 1 batter up until recently. Call in this game on Monday as the number 5 batter, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Hey, are you a law firm partner stuck on an underperforming team while the rest of the competitors are spending big and winning big? Well, unlike Mackenzie Gore and Keibert Ruiz, you have options. You don't have to stay on your 60-win team. Nats Chat sponsor Mason Kalfis and his team specialize in placing partners and associates at medium-sized and large law firms in Washington, D.C. and across the country. Mason Kalfis has recruiters in 6 states and has placed lawyers in more than half of the 100 largest law firms in the United States. While you may be reading doom and gloom from the legal press, many practices are red hot: antitrust, IP litigation, white-collar litigation, finance and direct lending, and healthcare. Because you are not under a CBA or team control for 6 years. In fact, staying at a firm too long is often a recipe for being underpaid. Explore your options today with Mason Kalfis. Call Mason today at 202-486-3535. That number again, 202-486-3535.
Here's the pitch to Abrams, and he launches one to right field. Way back it goes. Forget about it. That one's going to clear the bullpen up into the second deck. C.J. Abrams, home run number 4. Nationals lead 7-2.
Interesting game for C.J. Abrams on Monday. So he homered again, 2 for 4 with a solo home run, a single, and a stolen base that led to a run. Abrams in an Nats 2-run 6, a 1-out first pitch solo homer to the second deck in right field for a 7-2 Nats lead, 404 feet per Statcast. Also, Abrams in the Nats' one-run eighth, a leadoff single to right center. And Abrams in a 2-run fourth reached base via a one-out fielder's choice grounder, and then had a stolen base that forced a run-scoring throwing error by the Mets catcher, Francisco Alvarez. So offensively, good stuff from C.J. Abrams. Over the final 3 games of this series, 6 for 12 with 2 homers, an RBI double, 2 RBI singles, and another single. And he had a stolen base. Really good production from Abrams. But also for him on Monday was a bit of a snafu in the field. He forgot or didn't know how many outs there were at one point and did not try for a double play when he should have. Now, we know Abrams' defense isn't the concern. The hitting has been more the concern, and the hitting has been better lately. But the boo-boo in the field was a big topic with Davey Martinez after the game, and he was not exactly pleased about what happened.
No, and I know this didn't really get noticed in the moment on the broadcast, and I'm not faulting them for that. It's easy to miss these things. But I saw it from the press box, and it was a pretty big mental mistake. So with a couple runners on in the second and 1 out.
Swinging a ground ball to the second baseman. Garcia to second for 1. Abrams is just going to hold it.
Luis Garcia flips it to Abrams, who did not even attempt to turn the double play. And you could say, oh, well, it wasn't a guarantee that he was going to get him. I think it was Starling Marte that was running down the line. So no guarantee that would have, completed the double play. But you could tell in the way that he jogged to receive the throw, he was never setting up to make the turn, and he kept jogging towards the dugout as if he believed the inning was over. Well, it in fact was not over, and once he realized that, he put on the brakes, turned around, and went back. After the inning, Davey Martinez went up to talk to him in the dugout, and I think this is interesting. There are 2 ways you can go about this as a manager. You can chew him out for making a pretty bad mental mistake. You can even bench him, whether it's for the rest of this game or for the following day. Davey Martinez did not do it that way. He chose to use it as a teaching moment, obviously made it clear that he wasn't happy about it, and that's a mistake that can't happen again, but told him, all right, hey, you're due up this inning, go out there and hit a double. And that was the inning. He didn't hit the double, but he did reach base, like you said, stole second, drew a bad throw that then let another runner score, and then later in the game hits the home run and another single in the 8th inning as well. So it's a bad mental mistake. You don't want to see these kinds of things from anybody. But I did like the way that CJ responded to it with good quality play. Sometimes you can fall into a trap of saying, okay, I just screwed up. I've got to make up for it now. And you go too far in the other direction and make a mistake of over-aggression. And he did not do that in this case. A good sign. Hopefully, this is the only time this happens to him. It doesn't happen again. And it's not a recurring issue. And then everybody will be fine with it. But it was a big topic afterwards because Davey Martinez really was not pleased with it and made it clear that's the kind of mistake you cannot live with. Doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter how much experience you have. You keep track of how many outs there are in an inning.
I told him, I said, hey, you got to pay attention to what's going on every pitch, so I reminded him when I was playing, man, we all, after every out, we just held up a finger, and it's a reminder to you, really, not just to your teammates, but I said, you got to do that. I said, that's a big moment, to turn 2 right there.
It was a bad mistake for sure. I would say a few things. Number one, it's not like this has necessarily been a pattern with C.J. Abrams the way it has been a pattern with, say, Victor Robles. So, if a guy screws up one time, I think it's okay to not bench him. I don't think that makes you like a soft manager or anything like that. The other thing, though, is this. The Nats are playing better, but we are seeing some sloppiness out there. The Nats are making, I think, more outs than the team should be making on the base paths. You're seeing guys get thrown out in rundowns, guys getting thrown out and trying to stretch singles into doubles, things like that. There was a moment in this game, and you want to talk about benching someone. Jeimer Candelario in this game in a 1-run 7th, a 1-out triple on a high fly ball to deep right center that dropped between Mets right fielder Starling Marte and center fielder Brandon Nimmo. Each guy appeared to lose the ball in the sun. So we perhaps have yet another instance of the sun monster striking at Nationals Park this season. But Candelario wasn't running hard toward first base, and he might have cost himself an inside the park home run. And good job by Bob Carpenter on the MASN telecast for being critical of Candelario and pointing that out immediately, that Candelario was not hustling. Now, here's a veteran, you figure, hey, a young rebuilding team, a veteran is here for leadership and to set a good example, and he's not hustling in a moment like that. To say nothing, by the way, of the season that old Jeimer is having. He's not having a very good season, and he's coming off a bad season, too. He should be hustling for a lot of different reasons. So, I would just say, if you bench Abrams for what he did, then you should apply that to Jeimer Candelario and other guys too. So I think it's okay that Davey didn't bench Abrams. But just as an aside, I think, overall, you should feel good about what the Nats are doing. But there are still some moments here of sloppiness and just of things that you don't like to see from any major league team.
Yeah, 100%. And the irony of this game is that the Nationals really did not play a good, clean baseball game. On the bases, in the field, hustling, all that stuff that you just outlined. And they still thumped the Mets 10-2. Now, I don't know if that says more about the Nats or says something about the Mets, but it's kind of funny that they have played far better games this year that they've lost than this one, which they actually won and won comfortably because they hit so well and because they got good pitching. But it was not a particularly clean, crisp game. And if you really wanted to break it down into those kinds of things, I think there's a lot to not be pleased with their performance in this game.
All right, there's one more thing with the offense that I want to highlight. Luis Garcia against lefties. Remember, this was the big thing. Luis Garcia struggles against lefties. It was just a few weeks ago that Luis Garcia did not start a game. Michael Chavis started a game because the opposing starting pitcher was a left-handed pitcher. Luis Garcia on Monday as the Nats starting second baseman and number 2 batter, 2 for 5 with an RBI single and another single. Each single came on a 1-2 pitch from the Mets, wait for it, lefty starter, David Peterson. Garcia in the 2-run third, a 1-out opposite field single to left field on a 1-2 pitch from Peterson. Garcia in the Nats 2-run fourth, a 2-out opposite field RBI single through the left side of the infield on a 1-2 pitch from Peterson. Now, Luis did then get picked off and tagged out in a rundown for the third out. Okay, so there was, a moment of some sloppiness for the Nats. But check out these numbers. Luis Garcia now in this 2023 season against lefties has an OPS of 1,007. He last season against lefties had an OPS of just 577. And if you go back before the 2022 season, you will see more bad numbers for Luis Garcia against lefties. Long way to go in this 2023 season. But man, you talk about like a significant step forward. This was maybe the biggest flaw for Luis Garcia as a batter, his struggles against lefties. I don't know if we could say with certainty that he's fixed the flaw, that he's fixed the glitch, as was said in the great movie Office Space, but geez, he is doing so much better against left-handed pitching so far this season.
Well, he has no reason to want to steal a red stapler and set the building on fire, so that's a good thing. Thankfully, I think the glitch has been fixed. What's funny is that 2 years ago, 2021, he hit 297 off lefties in the big leagues. It was only 66 plate appearances. And then last year fell way down to 235 with only a 250 on base percentage. He entered this game batting 379. And as you just pointed out, the numbers have gone up because of the production there. He is doing a great job of keeping the front shoulder closed, the front hip closed, not flying open. That allows him to stay on pitches, especially on the outside part of the plate, and hit him the other way. And that's what he did in this game. And think back to the beginning of the year, and we're saying, okay, are any of these young guys going to step up and hit in the top spots in the lineup? And well, Davey's kind of hesitant to do that. He's going to leave them down until they prove something. Luis Garcia is proving himself now and proving that he can hit near the top of the lineup and batting second. And I'll be interested in C.J. Abrams' case. He's been hitting ninth most of the time. He's now tied for the team lead in homers and leads the team in RBI and all the other stuff that we mentioned that he's doing well. Maybe that is coming as well at some point. So that is such a great development that your 2 young middle infielders are doing that and not just producing, but showing clear signs of improvement in areas that you wanted to see improvement on. Just to go back to Abrams real quick, the best thing about the home run that he hit, it was on a cutter up at the letters. We know he's a good low ball hitter. He really has struggled on pitches up in the zone. He got to that one and drove it as well as any pitch that he's hit this year. So with both of them, these are really good signs of progress in the areas that they specifically are trying to work with them on. That's a lovely thing to see.
No question, and for multiple reasons, because A, you have players who are getting better, but B, you have signs that the organization is getting better at making people better. And, when you think about those guys and Josiah Gray, that is a credit, at least in part, to the organization and the coaching staff. And, you think about like with Garcia being better against lefties, Darnell Coles is doing a pretty good job, at least with Luis Garcia, right? So lots of things to feel good about it from that standpoint. Hey guys, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. Some amazing news from Window Nation. You can modernize and reinvest in your home today with new windows from Window Nation, all while capitalizing on Window Nation's best deal of the year. 0% financing, for 5 years. Unheard of. 0 interest for 5 years. And Window Nation will give you 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Protect and increase the value of your home today by taking advantage of this great offer. Again, 0% financing for 5 years and 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy. And by the way, that goes for any style of window from Window Nation, and there's no limit. Save thousands of dollars on your new windows and save money on energy bills, all while upgrading the look and feel of your home. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
Nimmo gets the bat on the ball. Corbin kicks, delivers the pitch. Inside, pickoff play on it first, and he's out! Dom Smith with a tag in behind the runner Alvarez. And able to slap the tag down and pick him off first base to end the inning. The Mets are not going to challenge this. That is a huge play to end the inning.
Well, speaking of being better, dare I say, our friend Patrick Corbin is better, at least so far this season, at least compared to his hideous last 3 seasons. Patrick Corbin, in this 10-3 win over the Mets at Nationals Park on Monday, a quality start for a 5th time in 6 starts. He allowed 2 runs in 6 innings, gave up 8 hits, a double, and 7 singles. He only issued 1 walk. He did have just 1 strikeout. He was not dominant, okay, but he was effective. 97 pitches, 61 strikes versus 36 balls. Got into some trouble in the top of the 2nd, during which he allowed a run via allowing 4 consecutive batters to reach base after retiring the Mets' first 2 batters in the inning. Corbin gave up 3 consecutive 2-out singles, then issued a 2-out walk of Francisco Alvarez, who did then get backpicked at first base by catcher Keibert Ruiz with the bases loaded for the 3rd out. Now, earlier in the inning was a 2-out throwing error by Keibert on a steal of second base by Starling Marte, but Ruiz very much atoned for that error with the back pick, which Davey Martinez in his postgame presser called the play of the game, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, man, Patrick Corbin, he is in a good place right now, certainly when you compare that place to the places that he has been the last few seasons. So Corbin for this season, 9 starts, the ERA is .465, but he over 3 starts in this month of May has an ERA of just .284. He's pitching like actually a pretty good pitcher here lately.
First of all, I do agree with Davey. That was the play of the game, at least in that moment. It was still a close, low-scoring, competitive game, and who knows what might have happened. That inning was getting away from Corbin, really the only one where that was the case all afternoon. And so to get out of that the way they did with a play that became such a big part of their game last year with Ruiz and Josh Bell at first, this was the first time they've actually done it this year. So that was great to see that Keibert called for that. So they have the pitch comm. And Corbin hears it, and Dom Smith at first base hears it, and he knows to be ready to bolt for first base. So a great moment to try that, and it worked perfectly and got him out of that jam.
Play of the game was the back pick, bases loaded. I mean, Keibert and Dom, with the back pick, stopped a big inning for us. So no one came out swinging the bats.
Now, bigger picture, Corbin, what he's doing, you said he's not dominant. He really isn't. There's that one start against the Cubs that he was lights out good and went into, the 8th inning, I think it was. Other than that, it hasn't been that kind of performance. But what he's doing is he's consistently giving them 5 or 6 good quality innings, limiting damage. And over his last 6 starts, it's a .347 ERA, a 1.156 whip. And my favorite stat of it, 22 strikeouts and only 4 walks. So he is being efficient. He is not giving up the loud contact. He's putting them in a position to win every time. And I think back to last year, really the last several years, he would tease us every once in a while and have a really good start or even a couple of them. And then he'd follow that up with one of those just complete duds where he couldn't get out of the first inning, or maybe he gets through 4, but he gives up 6 runs, something like that. That's what he's avoided, the big bad inning that ruins a start. And that's an important development for him. We're a long way from saying that he is totally fixed or that he is going to be a frontline pitcher for them again. But what he has done now over the first 6.5 weeks of the season is say, I can give you a chance to win. I'm going to take the ball every 5th day. I may not be great, but I'm not going to be bad. And for him, that's a huge step. It's made a big difference for them. You don't have at this point any one of the 5 games when their starter takes the mound, you aren't cringing thinking like, oh boy, this is going to be a quick outing and they're going to have to go to the bullpen early and this could get ugly early. That has not been the case with the 5 guys they're putting out there right now.
So you know where Corbin is starting to take us, or at least me. If he keeps this up, trade chip time. Because here's the thing, all right, and I'm serious about this. If he is pitching like this, you absolutely dump him. You trade him. You be willing to eat the remainder of the contract, and you sell while he is at the highest value point he has been in a really long time. I mean, the Nats, for the first time in a long time, have optimism with starting pitching, right? They're starting to feel like a team, especially if they take Paul Skeens with the number 2 overall pick in the upcoming draft, that, hey, has got a foundation for a great rotation moving forward. Corbin has 1 season left on the contract beyond this season. The pie-in-the-sky dream has been, hey, if Corbin gets right to any extent, maybe you can find a team that's interested in taking him. You're going to have to pay some of that contract for sure. But I wonder, A, would the Lerners green like that? But B, would Mike Rizzo pull the trigger on that? Trading Corbin this season. If he continues to pitch like this, there will be teams interested. It just would be a matter of, are the Nats willing to take on some of that contract?
First of all, there's a listener of ours who every time you say something like this is keeping track on Twitter of the Al Galdi trade chip counter. And I apologize for not remembering his name off the top of my head, but I'm anticipating the next one coming out with the updated standings of the players that you have attempted to trade already this season. We can add Patrick Corbin's name to the list. You're not wrong for suggesting that. The thought has crossed my mind as well here recently. It is a fascinating question, though, because of what you were just outlining. Yes, they would have to take on money of it and eat some of that. You'd say, well, hey, it's a sunk cost anyways. Of course. Why not? Just do that. Thanks to Tim. He's told us it's Christopher, Nats Finns fan, is the one who keeps track of this for us. And great job by Christopher. And I look forward to the updated Al Galdi trade chip standings come the next 24 hours. So here's the interesting question about it. And I'm sure this is a Rizzo question. This is a baseball question more than an ownership question. You do still need innings. You need guys to pitch. And while at the moment you can say, hey, the Nats are in pretty good shape rotation-wise, how do you know that's still going to be the case moving forward? Are you confident that Josiah Gray and Mackenzie Gore are going to stay healthy? Are you confident that Jake Irvin is a legitimate piece, a guy who's going to be on an innings count this year as well? Do you know for a fact that Cade Cavalli is coming back next year 100% ready to go? No problems at all. Are you sure that Trevor Williams is in the same boat? Another guy who, in theory, could have some interesting trade value with a year left on his contract. So if you know that everything's going to work out perfectly, you say, yes, of course, trade Corbin when you have the chance. But you don't know that. And the worst case scenario would be trading him and then having these other guys get hurt. And all of a sudden, you don't have pitchers to get you through the rest of this season or into next season when maybe you are starting to get closer to contention. I think it's an interesting question. Yes, if you get a decent offer for him, sure, go for it. But there could be ramifications of that you're not anticipating, or that other bad things could happen that make you actually wish you still had a guy who you knew reliably was going to take the ball every 5th day and give you innings that somebody has to pitch.
I hear you on that. I would not trade him, though, because of that. Like, if I can get something of any real consequence back for him, I'm doing that, and I'll figure out the innings later. I hear you on what you're saying. I'm not trying to be dismissive of it, but, you could always bring up a Paolo Espino. You could, bring back an Anibal Sanchez. You could sign another Chad Kuhl type. Like, you can figure out the innings if you really have to. The goal for this season isn't contention, and, the Nats probably are not going to wind up in contention come the summertime here. So if you can turn Corbin into a prospect or prospects, you absolutely do it. We're not there yet. I get that. But I don't think it's ridiculous to be thinking along those lines. And if you're Mike Rizzo, this is how you have to think. You have to think weeks and months ahead, because eventually it is going to be trade talk time. And, a guy like Corbin will have value. Do you think the Lerners would green light the Nats trading Corbin but eating some of that contract? We have not seen the Nats do something like that previously. Would Rizzo have permission to do that, do you think?
Right. They haven't done that kind of thing in the past, but I mean, they're spending the money on him anyways. So it's not like that's something that's going to, hurt them down the road, and they're not spending money on hardly anybody else except for Steven Strasburg, and that's a whole other conversation. I don't think so. And I think the way, if you're Mike Rizzo, the way you have to present that to them is this. Here's what we could get for him in a trade offer if we don't eat the money. And chances are it's a low-level prospect. It's not much of anything. But here's what we can get for him if we do chip in a sizable portion of the money. And if you're getting a much better prospect in return for him, that's how you have to sell it to them. And I could potentially see that happening. Think of it like this. The Nats got Lane Thomas for a couple months of John Lester, okay? Different situation, but if you can get anybody who even has a chance to become the next Lane Thomas for Patrick Corbin, of course you have to look into that and you have to make a case for it if the opportunity should present itself.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point. Something is better than nothing. And that's why, I'm not just doing it for stick. Like, I think you have to be, when you're a rebuilding team like the Nats, uber aggressive in trying to trade away guys who have trade value, who aren't long-term pieces for you. And Corbin clearly is not a long-term piece. Solid game for the Nats bullpen in this blowout win on Monday. Andres Machado, Carl Edwards Jr., and Hobie Harris combined to allow 1 run in 3 innings. Harris gave up the run, top of the 9th. Edwards, a perfect top of the 8th. Boy, did he need that, and he got that. There's one other Nats item I wanted to make mention of here while we're having a lot of happy conversation. So a new top 100 prospects list from MLB Pipeline has come out. The Nats have 5 of the top 100 prospects in baseball. It's kind of random when these lists come out because we just had one that came out late last week from Pipeline that had Brady House as a number 100 prospect. Well, it's up to number 94 in this top 100 list. But the big takeaway from this is that the Nats, for the first time in years, have a top 10 prospect. Outfielder James Wood is the number 8 prospect in baseball for MLB Pipeline. The other Nats top 100 prospects, outfielder Robert Hassel III, number 47, outfielder Elijah Green, number 65, and pitcher Cade Cavalli down to number 79 with him obviously out for the year with Tommy John. But, we so often talk about the 3-stud outfield prospects, Wood, Hassel, Green, Green, Hassel, Wood. Wood now is a top 10 prospect. Is he, in fact, viewed as the best of the bunch, at least as things stand right now?
I think that's how they internally view him, yes. And that is key, how things stand now. Brady House is just coming back after missing all of last year. Off to a very good start, but at low A ball, let's see what happens. Elijah Green, very highly touted, but he is striking out a ton, and his stock has maybe fallen a little bit. Robert Hassel III on those rankings has dropped somewhat, probably because he was hurt to start the year. But he's actually hitting pretty well at Harrisburg now that he's playing every day and doing that. So these things can change. But I think internally at spring training, the feeling was James Wood is the best of that group and a guy who has all the skills, hitting for power, defense, base running, all that inside a massive body for such a young guy, and who's still learning how to use that body to the best of his ability and is going to fill out and really figure that all out here in the next few years. I'll be fascinated to see, we're not there yet, but in about a month, maybe a month and a half, as we approach late June and into early July, do they make some moves here and start promoting guys to higher levels? And, that would mean Wood to AA, Hassel to AAA, House to high A, Green to high A, although he's going to have to do more at low A first to prove that he's ready for that. That'll be the real indication to me of what they believe the timeline for these guys is. If you're bumping them up after half a season, that says to me you're thinking in terms of, hey, they could be even at another level a year from now. We're not there yet, but I would say that what James Wood is doing and the way he's viewed, there's a good chance they could bump him up to AA here in midseason. And now you start thinking about major league debuts once you get to AA.
Understand, James Wood, his stock is skyrocketing. So the Nats got Wood and Hassel in the trade of Juan Soto to the Padres last August 2nd. At the time of the trade, Wood was the number 88 prospect for MLB Pipeline. He's now the number 8 prospect per Pipeline. This is just his age 20 season. He's a local. His initial high school was St. John's College High School in D.C. And Mark referenced the size. James Wood, 6'7", 240 pounds. If you're constructing a stud outfielder in the lab, James Wood is probably what the guy looks like. And the other thing is this, 3 of the top 5 prospects for the Nats here, first-round picks by the Nats. The Nats had that drought in which just like one first-round pick after another flopped. Well, here you have Cade Cavalli, 2020 first-round pick, Brady House, 2021 first-round pick, Elijah Green, 2022 first-round pick. All 3 guys now our top 100 prospects. So maybe finally the Nats are starting to cash in on some of these first-round picks.
And in 2 months from now, they're going to draft another very high first-round pick that's probably going to immediately appear in these rankings because it's going to be one of the top prospects in baseball, whoever it is.
Someone from LSU, we can say that with confidence, either outfielder Dylan Cruz or starting pitcher Paul Skeens. Hit us up on Twitter at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We've been telling you about our new website. Check it out if you haven't yet done so, natschatpodcast.com. You can listen to previous installments of the show. You can get yourself a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. That website again, natschatpodcast.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. A salute to Tim Newmark for the Nats Chat Podcast music. Visit timnewmark.com. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
And then there's Tom Sinkowski. He's useless.
Gone. Sounds good to me.
Here's a peculiar. Milton Wadhams.
Who's he?
You know, squirrely-looking guy, mumbles a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we can't actually find a record of him being a current employee here.
I looked into it more deeply, and I found that apparently what happened is that he was laid off 5 years ago, and no one ever told him about it. But through some kind of glitch in the payroll department, he still gets a paycheck.
So we just went ahead and fixed the glitch.
Great. So, Milton has been let go.
Well, just a second there, Professor. We fixed the glitch. So he won't be receiving a paycheck anymore, so it'll just work itself out naturally.
We always like to avoid confrontation whenever possible.